Drew, how did you enjoy this investigation?
It was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool, huh?
Until I get left alone.
And then what happens?
And everything bad happens.
What kind of bad stuff happens?
Oh, you know what bad stuff happens.
Well, look, you know what? The viewers don't, bro.
Yeah, they do.
Something's wrong.
Let's begin. Hey everyone, it's Brian from YourParanormal. Hey look, so last episode was all about the history, and today we're so excited to bring you the full breakdown of our first investigation ever, the Cunningham Private Residence, or as we like to call it, CPR-1. Now, I'm going to have some footage here in the background. I want you to be able to fully experience what an actual investigation looks like. And of course, I'm going to be showing you in the next episode the entire highlights, all the evidence that we captured so far. And that's going to be great for the people that are just looking for the evidence and all the exciting things. In this episode, which is the full breakdown, I want to take you from, real quickly, where we are as a group, who's coming, what roles they're going to be, why, and really break down why we decided to investigate this way, what techniques do we use, and you can take this and apply it to your own group. You see, there's a lot of people that you see on the TV shows or any other media outlet that just show you, hey look, this is what we caught and it's cool, this is a cool place to investigate, but I want to show you from start to finish kind of what we're dealing with. So this investigation takes place back in August of 2019, okay? We just started our group and this is the first investigation to get the ball rolling, okay? And it's myself and 4 other people we have as the photographer, Drew, myself as the EVP tech, the recorder was John, the camera operator was Dan, and the static tech was Matt. The reason why I chose those roles were, these were kind of the roles that they were interested in during our interviews. And so the first thing I did was I interviewed them. I wanted to know what their paranormal history was, I wanted to know what was going on in their life, and I wanted to know what kind of roles interested them. And after I got a sense of who would be interested in the investigation, I interviewed them, which you can see in the links in the description, kind of what kind of questions we ask, and then that's how I kind of chose their roles. I also wanted to make sure that they got to experience every single role, but because they have no experience in the paranormal, so they've never done any role in the paranormal group, I was free to choose any of them. And I thought, based on their answers to the interview, those are the best ones for them. Okay, so next up, this is the Cunningham Private Residence. I've investigated there before with my college group. They had never done an investigation to begin with. This is a private residence, so I've been there. And I know that there is a bottom floor. You can consider it a basement if you want. It's, as soon as you walk in, it's a split level. So there's stairs to the lower level and there's stairs to the regular level or the first floor. I break it down as like the basement area and then the first floor and then the attic. Okay, so those are the 3 main areas that we're dealing with. Okay, so in the basement, there's the theater room, the garage, the cat alley, like the little cat room, and they have a back room called the fish tank room, because there used to be a fish tank before maybe some spirits got in there. And you know, these spirits in this house, there is a mysterious, something weird always happens to the pets, and then, you know, they end up passing. And so of course some of the people attribute that to the spirits, but And of course, that was bunny, fish, cat. But that's the breakdown there. So we have the theater room as soon as you walk in. There's a garage that we don't actually end up utilizing. There's the cat room, and there is the fish tank room. So there's like 4 key areas downstairs. And then the first floor, we have home base, which we decided was the living room. We have the kitchen, we have the hallway, and we have the bathroom. And then we have the bedroom, the workout room, and the computer room. And up above the computer room is the attic. So we decided that each rotation would be about 40 minutes. So we would start this investigation, we'd get there, we would unpack, and we would do a tour. So we would unpack, we'd set up all the equipment, I would do the tour. So probably right now is where we do the tour in the background here. And then we're gonna have 40 minutes per rotation. So what we're gonna do is, let me find where we start. So we're actually gonna start in the basement area. Typically we start in the fish tank room, but because it was so, I think it was because it was so hot. Yeah, the temperature was off. So when we got there, typically we like the investigation to be colder than normal. So it was actually a little hot. So we were able to turn down the temperature, which throughout the investigation, we made a note of that. We're gonna go to the basement floor for 40 minutes. We're gonna go to the attic for 40 minutes. We're gonna go on the main floor for 40 minutes. So basically, bottom floor, attic, then the middle, and then we're gonna do a spread. And after that, we're gonna do some solo and duo runs. And it's also here where I would like to mention, basically because there's no time limit, we wanted to be a little flexible. So if we got off schedule a little bit, so we actually went ahead and did an itinerary. There were a few hot spots we knew going into it, which was the bedroom, which is why we set up the Connect. We're gonna bring some really good trigger objects, such as they brought out their dolls and their muesli, and we brought our muesli, and we brought Barb the Second, of course, and we brought the Connect. We have a static cam that's in the kitchen area. And then of course we have audio recorders spread out throughout the house, one in the attic, one in the fish tank room, one near home base, one in the bedroom, really spread out. So essentially, I'm going to go ahead and just take you through exactly what we experienced with the investigation, and in the background, you're going to be able to see what's actually going on. So what we have here is we are setting up the equipment, and right about when we're going to do the tour, Drew is setting up the Connect, and there's something wrong. We actually see a stick figure in the back of the bedroom. And we were trying to give it commands and it really wasn't doing anything. But our big concern was if it was a glitch. So we actually went back there and we tried to replicate it. And as soon as we went back there and started acknowledging it, it kind of disappears. The impactful thing about this is when we investigated throughout our college group about 8 to 10 times, the sensitive people in the group always said that there was something in that exact corner that would watch them sleep. Now this, of course, is August of 2019. This dates back to, I'd say 2015. So 4 years ago, someone was telling me, hey Brian, something's lurking around this house. It watches them sleep at night. It stays in that corner. 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, it's there. It's crazy. So there's a little coincidence, and of course, there's a lot of significance there. Of course, the stick figure appears in the corner of the room with the Connect, and as soon as that happens, Drew actually gets a bad feeling and feels sick near the corner of that room. I placed my static audio recorder face down where the stick figure was, so we were finishing up basically setting everything up. I put my phone on airplane mode, do not disturb, and I set it right where that stick figure was, and face down, so in case for some reason the screen did light up, it wouldn't bother anyone. And I put it there just to capture something in case there was any audio evidence near where the stick figure was. And so then I end up giving the tour. We put a lantern in an old object and Moose Lee in the kitchen for trigger objects. And I give the tour, basically giving not so much bias of what happens, but I do point out a few areas of, hey, just be a little cautious in here. And I do a protection prayer. We do a protection prayer before every investigation and after every investigation, basically using our faith as power, whatever you believe in, to make sure that if there's any spirits, they can't follow us home, and to keep us safe and to hopefully have good interactions. One of the cool things I'd like to actually bring up here is that Dan, who's the camera operator, first time being camera operator, and the investigation just started, he makes a note that the doors are open, and that's a beautiful technique here, because if you're the camera person audibly noting that the doors are open, doors are closed, if they open or close throughout the investigation, you wouldn't even know. And it's one thing to document it with the video, but also saying it is so beautiful. It's a wonderful technique that I've never used, I've never seen happen, and it's one that we're definitely going to be implementing throughout the rest of our investigations. We start with the first EVP session in the theater room. We're all on the couch, we're all together. The reason we're all together is because this is their first investigation. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to see firsthand what kind of questions to ask, and I want everyone to be comfortable. I want everyone to be there when we introduce ourselves to the spirits in the house. So we're all on the couch, John's on the chair. I do the EVP intro. We're all friends of the owner. I'm trying to set the ground rules. If the answer to the question is yes, please, touch one of us, make a loud noise that's close to us, interact with anything you can, speak into the audio recorder. We're friends of the owner, and of course I start every EVP session with, for example, the time is 10:48, it's Brian, and I'm here with, and everyone goes around. This is CPR 1, we're in rotation 1, we're in the theater room, just basically stating all those, different facts for the audio recorder's sake. And of course, the ground rules, like I said, please make a loud noise that's close to us, or touch one of us if the answer to the question is yes. So, and we actually start with a moment of silence. There's a lot of jitters going on because there's, of course, new people, and I kind of wanted to give us some silence because everyone's been talking with the tour, with the setup. I wanted to introduce ourselves as friends of the owners, and if they want to talk to us, they can. We give them a little moment of silence. Matt tries to see if the spirit was there before the house was built. It's a great question. Drew's first question was a reference to the Connect in the bedroom. Was that you in the bedroom when we turned on the Connect? That's good stuff. You're referencing something that already happened before the investigation even started. That's fantastic. You're trying to trigger that activity. And after our initial questions, we start hearing some thumps, maybe even faint thumps upstairs, maybe like even some walking around, maybe like a sound of a whisper or a breath. These are all good indications of something going on upstairs. What we do is we end the first EVP session in the theater room, which is still downstairs. It's still rotation 1. So we're downstairs for 40 minutes. We spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in the theater room, moment of silence, we ask some questions, we're hearing some stuff upstairs. Now watch what I do. I decide to anchor Drew. Now anchoring is when you leave a member behind, or you anchor them somewhere and you move, somewhere hopefully not too far, but it can be pretty far. For example, if you were at Madison Seminary, which is a big location, and you're all the way up in the attic, you can anchor one of your members there when you go back to home base for part of the break to switch rotations. Maybe you have a second team that's also going, that's going to go in the attic, and you're going to swap them out for the basement shift. Sometimes there's 5, 10, 15 minute break just so everyone can get back to home base, relax. You can anchor someone who doesn't necessarily have to pee for an extra 5 minutes of a solo run up in the attic. That's exactly what I did here for this first portion. I know Drew was hearing stuff upstairs, so I anchored him to the stairs from the basement going up to the top to see if he could more clearly hear things. And maybe the spirit's going to interact with him one-on-one versus all of us in a group. Drew's going to stay quiet, and he's going to listen. Meanwhile, the other 4 of us are going to go in the fish tank room, which is a little further into the basement area. We start the second EVP session, and Drew returns. He said he heard walking around in the living room, and he got a little creeped out. Of course, this is his first investigation, so and after 3 or 5 minutes, he came back from being anchored. Dan and John were hearing some scratches on the window. These noises we're hearing is after Matt asked if the spirit likes watching the family. And Dan asks about orbs in the camera because he started seeing orbs in the camera, in the video camera, because he's the camera operator. And I kind of taught him what I was taught, which was, orbs are 99.9% dust or bugs. When you're going to see an orb, it's mostly going to be with your eyes, and it's going to be a ball of light. 9.9 times out of 10. It's just dust flying around, which could be the case, which most likely is the case in that fish tank room. So I wanted to point that out because Dan, it's his first time being the camera operator. I had a similar experience with Gino during our second investigation. He was the camera operator for the first time, and he was seeing orbs, and that's probably just dust or bugs. Drew sees a shadow from the window that they heard scratches from, and this is a good point because going back through the evidence, reading the recorder's notes, watching the video, you may forget about these things when you're hearing little scratches or seeing shadows, but when you look at it in the macro, it all kind of comes together. So that's kind of the perfect point to these full breakdowns where you go through all the evidence and you kind of pinpoint everything going on. But again, I'm explaining all this. This is going to be a little more detailed for the normal person because you can take bits and pieces of this and apply it to your own group. Maybe you can try anchoring on your next investigation. But I want to give a full breakdown. Of course, for the majority of people, they're excited for the highlights. They're excited for the evidence, which we're showing casually, and I'm kind of just talking over it and explaining it. I want to give the full breakdown for the people that really, really want to know exactly what happened and why we did everything. I stated our goal. We've conducted investigations, and the homeowner knows that there's something here, and good or bad, we just want to know why you're here and what's your message. And asking those, stating that, hey, look, our purpose, we're friends of the homeowner. Our main purpose is, whether it's good or bad or, whatever your goal is, we just want to know what your message is. We want to know why you're here. Maybe we could help you pass on, or if you need a rise out of the owners just to stay in existence. They just want to know what's going on because they're confused. They know you're here. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad. What's going on? Are there multiple of you? This is that. Now, this is where Drew feels like something is touching his neck. And this is the first time that Drew is going to start getting touched, or that there's a lot of attention on Drew. This is again in rotation 1 in the fish tank room. Upon completion of our first rotation, which is the basement, I anchor Matt in the fish tank room, Dan in the theater room, and the rest of us move up to home base. Us 3, me, Drew, and John, we had to pee, so we did during our break. And Dan and Matt didn't have to pee, that's why I anchored them. This anchoring technique is really cool. Most of the time, anchoring is done when you move through the rotation. This is like between rotations. It allows for an extra solo run time with your members that don't need a full break. Okay, so Dan is in the theater room. He's still staying silent, and he's using the compass because he's the camera operator. He's using the compass to see if there's something wrong. Because if the compass starts to go haywire, it could be that, the paranormal is trying to mess with magnetic fields. Dan hears and points. Oh, Dan's the camera operator during the break between rotations goes to check on the connect to make sure. Okay, so after they were done with their anchoring session, Dan, who's the camera operator, who knows that something was wrong with the connect, goes just to check on the connect with the camera, just to make sure if there is something, he can capture it. And Dan hears and points out exactly what he hears from the attic because he's hearing something from the attic. It's an amazing perk of being a camera operator. You know, whether you write it down as the recorder or, you know, he's pointing exactly where he's hearing stuff. I'm hearing stuff from this attic. And he heard that when he went to go check on the Connect. So this is in between rotation 1 and rotation 2. Again, rotations are when you set out a specific time, 30, 40 minutes, an hour, in a specific location. Because with a big location, you might have 10 people and you cut them up into 2 teams. Now let's just say Team Alpha and Team Charlie. Or Team Delta and Team Echo. And you want Team Echo in the attic and Team Delta in the basement. Well, when you make your itinerary, you want to make sure that there's, you know, an hour each. So you're all on schedule to meet back at break, relax, and then flip-flop. And it allows everyone to kind of go to, for all your members to experience all the location. We're talking near the bedroom, and Matt starts to get goosebumps. And this is interesting. Drew's bone in his hand starts to hurt. Now, I've never had that experience. Drew, who's only taking photos, who's got that thing around his neck so there's no strain on his hand. Like, I could see maybe if it was the camera operator, but there's no reason why someone's bone in his hand would hurt. You know, I've done 35 plus investigations and no one's ever said that. So there's something wrong. And it's all about the bedroom. You see, Drew already felt like felt a little sick in the corner of that room. And he already felt something was touching his neck downstairs. And now when he goes back to the bedroom, his hand starts to hurt, Matt getting goosebumps. These are all subtle signs. And of course, it could all be coincidence. But there seems to be something wrong in that bedroom. Something's wrong in the entrance of the bedroom. And they describe it as a heaviness or, you know, hard to breathe. And then something starts to touch Drew's head. He feels something touching his head. And then we move up into the attic for rotation 2. You know, we document this stuff, and then we keep moving on to rotation 2. So we already did the basement. We didn't do the first floor yet, but there's activity in the first floor. We're going to move up to the attic, and we're going to see what's going on. Because we heard stuff on the first floor during our first rotation when we were in the basement. Now we're moving up to the attic. Maybe we'll hear stuff in the first floor still. So now we're in rotation 2. Drew feels like there's something in the corner of the attic, and Dan confirms that's where he heard the knocks when he was checking on the Connect in the workout room. So, where Dan heard those knocks, Drew goes, I got this feeling that something's in there. Something's in this corner. Dan's like, well, that's a coincidence, because I heard noises from there. We hear a springing noise twice on the stairs, and I've investigated there 6-ish times. I've never heard a weird spring, but it was almost as if someone was touching the ladder. Okay, we're still in the attic here. We set up a flashlight test. Now, what that means is we turn on a twistable flashlight, we turn it off, barely, and we set it down and we tap it to make sure that there's no physical interaction that's going to turn it on. It's got to be all electrical. And the flashlight turns on, and 30 seconds later, they hear a noise in the corner of the room. Light turned on and turned off, and then the light turns back on and turns off, and they hear a noise downstairs. So what's going on here is the flashlight's kind of going towards, you know, like going with our questions. You know, when we ask a question, the flashlight turns on. Hey, can you turn that off? It turns back off. So we know something might be here, but as soon as it turns off, we hear a noise in the corner of the room or downstairs. I test the flashlight again, and it seems whatever was twisting it on and off, like after 3 or 4 times, actually made it susceptible to physical altercation. Therefore, I reset the flashlight, which is nice. You know, if you're having interactions with the flashlight test, you know, maybe after 3 or 4 responses, you might want to just pick it up, turn it all the way on, and then all the way off, and do it again. Or at least test it by tapping it. And if whatever was messing with the flashlight made it susceptible to physical altercations, you want to make sure that you reset it. It's very important to stay credible. We try the clap test, which is wherever you are in the house, can you please replicate this sound? And then you clap twice and you listen. We actually got a clap test response. And at this point, the people that have never done an investigation before are like freaking out. They've got flashlight tests going off. They already saw the connect. They're hearing stuff. They have bad feelings. And now the cloud test response. And then of course we do the knock test, which is I'm gonna go and I want you to respond with 2 knocks. And you go ahead and do that. And we only heard taps downstairs. And we hear another noise. We found one of the dolls that were downstairs, so we got that. Matt is making a noise on the ladder to test that if that was the noises that we heard. This is a good, like debunking technique, just to make sure, whatever we were hearing on like whatever was messing with the ladder, trying to replicate that noise for us. And then we end the attic and we go into a small spread. So it's still rotation 2, but we anchor John up in the attic. We were hearing some stuff in the attic. We're gonna leave one person up there and shut him in. So we shut John in there. And then I send Drew and Dan down in the basement again, in the theater room, Matt in the bedroom, and I am in the computer room right underneath the attic in case, heaven forbid, something attacks John. I can easily get up there and save him. So, still rotation 2. I anchor John up in the attic, and here we go. It's a mini spread. Matt hears something touching the bed during this session. Then Matt and Drew don't feel well in the bedroom again. Something's wrong in the bedroom. They're getting a bad feeling. John doesn't hear anything in the attic, and Drew and Dan don't really get anything in the basement area. But when we all reconvene in the bedroom, that's when Matt and Drew were feeling weird stuff. Dan again is checking this compass. It's a fantastic technique, especially if you're the camera operator, because you're going to catch it if something is manipulating the compass. There's no way to share that with your community unless you capture it on video. So they're asking if the connect distance could create the weird interference. So they're seeing some weird interference with the connect, and we're testing it, and we're kind of saying maybe it's not really connecting. It's really not picking up anything at a large distance away from the connect, which doesn't make any sense. Like, then how can it pick up that stick figure that it did? During the second break, so this is in between rotation 2 and 3. During the second break, Matt takes the camera and does a solo sweep downstairs while the others are getting ready upstairs. The solo sweep. This is great. We're all taking a break. We're using the restroom. We're taking a breather. We're drinking some water. Matt takes the video camera and he goes downstairs and does a solo sweep, which means no one's down there but him. He wants to check. This is great for private residences. He checks the trigger object like Moose Lee. He's just going through, seeing if anything interacts with him on a solo basis. And it's a great way not to waste any time on an investigation. If you don't need the break, you don't have to do it. As long as, and also, when he goes in these rooms, he knows that the static audio recorders are down there. So he's gonna say, hey, this is Matt. That's important, because if you just hear walking around on the static audio during evidence review, you're gonna think something's going on. And of course, you're gonna check the itinerary, you're gonna check the notes, and of course, the video camera, and you're gonna find out that it's Matt. But it's just out of courtesy that you introduce yourself. And also during the break, John goes out to my car and finds my Amazon card that I lost. This is kind of interesting because for the Cunningham's house, a huge thing is that items will get lost and refound, but in a different place. And I had lost that card for a few weeks now. And of course, as soon as we investigate a place that's known for things that disappear and reappear, John finds the card. That's just a little coincidence there. Okay, we're starting rotation 3. We're on the first floor. Home base, stairs, kitchen. So we decided to do a spread. Matt's at the bottom of the stairs, Dan's at the top, me and John are in the living room, and Drew's in the kitchen. Dan sets up a flashlight test near the top of the stairs. And Dan hears something from the bedroom, and Drew starts hearing stuff on the kitchen table. And then under the table. So Drew, who's in the kitchen, is noticing these weird noises. Something's wrong in the kitchen. And Dan, who's at the top of the stairs, can just barely see into the bedroom. And they're getting some activity there. So almost at the same time, two sets of activity. Something's coming from the bedroom. Something's coming from the kitchen. Dan hears another noise from the bedroom. Drew is feeling things that are touching his head. Meanwhile, Dan continues to hear weird noises from the bedroom. Very, very, very consistent. Drew is still hearing noises. Something's wrong. And we actually all, after the spread, we ask a bunch of questions. We all clump together in the workout room, except Drew, who's in the kitchen. I want Drew to have a one-on-one time with the spirit, or whatever was touching him. He hears more noises and feels that something's on his neck. So Drew comes in after a while from his one-on-one session. Says, guys, something touched my neck. Something's around my neck. Something's wrong. And when we were, all four of us were in the workout room, we were hearing some weird scratches. Okay. Dan checks the compass in the bedroom. Still no activity on the compass. As Drew walks around, he feels that something's following him. So it's important to stop here and just take a note of this. We've got Drew, from before the investigation started, felt like something was wrong, something was sick. And you can see progressively that something was walking around upstairs, kind of close to him, when I anchored him. And then something was touching his head. He was feeling noises or hearing noises. Something was touching his neck, around his neck. Now things are going to progress. This is the break in between. So this is, break number 3. John proposes a body check, and I've never done a body check. Up until this point, I've only done college investigations, and it's not truly suitable in a college setting when you're running a student-run organization to do a body check. Though I'm sure you could, and it just didn't seem appropriate. But because we're all high school friends, we're all good friends, childhood friends, we decided to do it. And John said, there's always scratches on people's backs and everything. Let's just take off our shirts and do it. And sure enough, Drew's back was scratched. 3 lines down the side. And he said, look, I didn't scratch my back at all. I didn't do anything. And it was really weird. Very visible too. I don't know what, very strange. And 3 lines. You would think if you scratched your back, you would use all 4, maybe even 5 in this motion, but it was I don't know why you would scratch with 3. It's strange. And all my members, but especially Drew, would never fake anything like this. But keep that in mind. All these things are happening to Drew, and then his back gets scratched. So that was break 3. We're going into rotation 4. This is the train. Rotation 4 is basically on the first floor. A train is where you have everyone in line, okay? Where, Drew's in front, and then we've got, who's the closest to the kitchen? And then we've got Dan, myself, John, Matt. And I position everyone in front of a doorway because I'm going to do a peekaboo test, which is you ask the spirit to summon all of its energy, and on the count of 3, you say peekaboo, and it's supposed to gather all of its energy and make itself physically appear or make a loud noise. And then you do it 3 times. 3, 2, 1, peekaboo. This is fantastic for new people because it gets their, gets their spirits up, especially if something's really not going on in the investigation. So, rotation 4. John does a solo sweep in the bedroom during the break. Then we start rotation 4, which is the train. We start with a knock test. And you respond with 2 knocks. There's no response to the knock test. Then we do a clap test, and they think they hear one clap from the workout room. and then I do peekaboo. Matt hears some scratching in the closet in the bedroom. They hear a little whistle, and then Matt starts to whistle to see if we get any response. And I kind of give a breakdown of what's been going on. You know, something might be touching the TV, something might be in the closet, in the kitchen, etc. Drew saw shadows in the kitchen, and I'm kind of just stating it for everyone in case they're a little scared and they're not really knowing what's going on. We hear something decently big. I just heard something in this room. And then we heard a big noise. More knock tests. Dan does a compass check. And then at this point, we all move into the bedroom from the train. And Matt asks, do you like it warm? And it like twists the spirit or whatever, or even like the wind up doll. It twists and makes a ding. And everyone, of course, gets excited about that. And the reason we're using the homeowners dolls, which they were fine with, is because it's a trigger object for them. It's a trigger object. You know, we're trying to use that kind of stuff. Begin the spread. So I actually spread. I'm in the kitchen. Matt's still in the bedroom. John is also in the bedroom. Dan's in the computer room. And Drew's in the workout room. We spread and we really don't get anything. We did 4 rotations. Okay? We did the first floor, we did the basement, we did the attic, we did the first floor spread, and then we also did the first floor kind of train / in the bedroom. And that's, 40 times 4. So we're doing good on time. We decided to do 2 sets of small squads, which just means cutting it in half. So 3 people go in and then 2 people go in. And then we do some duo runs and solo runs. And then we call it a night. Small squad 1. Oh, look, we're still in rotation 4 here. Something keeps touching Drew in the workout room. And then during the break, we're right about to get into small squad 1. And Drew's scratches are gone because we checked. Break 3, we check. He's got scratches. Rotation 4 happens. Break 4, his scratches are gone. And it's crazy. Why would decently good scratches appear and then 40 minutes later it should be gone? I've never seen it happen like that. It's very strange. Now this is Matt, Drew, and Dan, small squad 1. They split and Dan and Drew go into the bedroom and Matt goes in the kitchen. Matt pours a small drink of his water as a trigger object. Dan and Drew tried to get the spirit to stand in front of the bed and connect, or to move the compass dial. Dan and Drew eventually move into the kitchen and Matt moves downstairs. Drew was having luck in the kitchen by himself, so then Dan moves down in the hallway. They hear a bunch of knocks on the dream catcher. Small squad 2 comes in, which is me and John, and it's also do a run. We decided to do a full run in the place. We reference a lot of the history. Again, we move throughout the house, upstairs, attic yelling, basement, then back to the bedroom. Again, really leveraging the relationship we have with the owner to kind of trigger a response, but nothing really happened on our small squad run. We do solo runs, and Drew's up first. Drew begins his solo run where he got the most activity, which is the kitchen. Drew is hearing noises all around him in the kitchen, and he moves to the bedroom because he heard something from the bedroom, and then he hears something, and he gets out. He is not having it. He was done with his solo run after that. In Matt's solo run, he goes straight to the bedroom and gets on the bed to try and get some activity. He has to use the restroom, and then when he's in there, he actually hears some noises all around him. Dan does a solo run. I'm very happy for my team. A lot of people are reluctant to do solo runs, but all of my members were able to do solo runs. And it was the first time. Good people, good group. Dan starts out in the kitchen, one of the 2 most active areas being the kitchen and the bedroom. Dan then goes into the hallway to cover more view. He says, "Is that you coming towards me?" He's really trying to pull the activity into different rooms. Next up is John's solo run. A more quiet, full spread approach. He didn't ask a lot of questions, but he tried to let the spirits talk. He goes all the way up in the attic, addresses himself as a friend, and there's no interactions. Trying a lot of different techniques to get the spirits to touch him. They won't. Insert my solo run. Going through the whole house, using the doll music as a trigger object in the kitchen and bedroom because it was the most active. Gives a walkthrough of the house with the camera. And lastly, rotation 5, as I like to call it, isolation. We're getting ready to do the attic, to do a 3 a.m. special, since they've never investigated at 3 a.m. before, or at all for that matter. I wanted their first 3 a.m. to be special, the witching hour. We're in the bedroom and John sits down and the dog goes off. Yeah, so we were in the attic and then we moved to the bedroom. So after solo runs, there's duo runs. Dan and John are investigating the living room because no one has really done that yet. It's a good technique. In the actual home base. They're trying to knock twice and get them to repeat it, and they actually hear a response. They hear tiptoes. They hear something again. They hear shuffling of feet. And there's actually some weird words or noises that were captured. John goes to check in the bedroom and then in the basement to do a spread. Dan follows John after he starts to go into the basement. And then duo run number 2, which is me and Drew. We start in the kitchen and ask it to make a loud noise for us to move into the bedroom. Drew and I both hear something, so we move into the bedroom. Drew hears something outside the bedroom. We ask if something's in the closet with us, and we hear a noise from the closet. We move into the workout room. We hear a noise when we ask if there's anyone here with us. We move into the living room and ask if there's something here, and we hear it in the kitchen. Okay. Now look, that's really the wrap up. So what really happened here? After the investigation, there's a bunch of recorder notes, static audio, Evp Sessions audio, and video camera, like mobile cams. So what I did was, I didn't review all of the static cam stuff, and I don't have the other people's audio. But what I did do was I went through all of the static audio. I went through all the mobile cam visuals. So that in itself is like close to 20 hours, plus writing everything down. And then, going through all the photos, going through all the notes, going through all the EVP sessions, and just trying to listen for stuff. So the next episode, I know the first episode was the history, this was the full breakdown, and the next one's just going to be the highlights and the evidence, the good stuff. But I wanted this video to serve as, okay, take me through an entire investigation and break down, what you talk about, what's going on here, what are the small techniques that we miss, and kind of walk us through from start to finish. We end with the prayer, we wrap everything up, and Matt actually stays there a little bit too, a little bit after we all leave, until the homeowners arrive. It's really good first investigation. Popping off with a connect is insane. And having all that stuff happen to Drew, and having scratches on his back, and having them disappear. This is the kind of good stuff. And you're going to see in the conclusion kind of what it all means, and how we're going to use this to leverage, and maybe there'll be there is a second investigation, and we're trying to do maybe once a year these investigations and go from there. And those were the 2019 investigations with us. What does 2020 look like? What does 2021 look like? Does the activity change? And as long as the homeowners feel safe and confident, we can keep doing this. So we're all excited here. That was the full breakdown. Hopefully you could even just listen to this in the background, just kind of, okay, as you going throughout your day, but these are the kind of things that we're doing. So I want to give a full breakdown of exactly how we did it, what we did. Again, each rotation was 40 minutes. We took a 10-minute break in between each one. So we just started off, and because it was a private residence and we had no time schedule, if we spent a little less or a little more than 40 minutes, it was okay. But we had a good guideline. And we only had one team to worry about, so there's no noise contamination, and we were good to go. All right, everyone, that concludes the full breakdown.